The photograph was faded, edges curled like dry leaves, two sisters smiling with forced ease, arms linked, but eyes betraying a fracture already present. It lay tucked beneath forgotten letters and pressed flowers, hidden away for decades. Elena Mendez stared at the image, heart hammering painfully. Tomorrow, her daughter Sophia would marry, unknowingly inviting the past to reclaim its place. A past Elena had meticulously buried. Beside her, Gabriel stood silently, eyes clouded with guilt. "Are we ready for this?" Elena whispered, her voice brittle with decades of suppressed pain. Gabriel reached for her hand, offering reassurance he didn't truly feel. "We have no choice." Outside, the garden lay peaceful, unaware of the storm that would tear through the veil of carefully constructed lies. Tomorrow, their daughter would discover the truth. Tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same again. Sophia Mendez stood in front of the vintage vanity mirror in her childhood bedroom, the wedding dress a cascade of ivory satin against her olive skin. 28 years of life had led to this moment, the threshold of a new chapter with David, her college sweetheart turned fiancé. Her mother Elena fussed with the veil, eyes glistening with tears that seemed heavier than mere wedding sentimentality. "Are you sure about the guest list?" Elena asked for what must have been the dozenth time that month. "There's still time to make changes." Sophia met her mother's gaze in the reflection. "Mom, we've been over this. I want Aunt Isabel to be there. She's your only sister, and I barely remember her. This is the perfect occasion to reconnect." Elena's hands trembled slightly as she secured the veil with pearl pins. "Isabel and I, we have history. That's exactly why she needs to be here," Sophia insisted. "Whatever happened between you two was decades ago. People change. Families heal." What Sophia couldn't understand was how 30 years of silence created wounds too deep for simple optimism to cure. She had extended the invitation to her aunt 3 months ago, after finding Isabel's contact information through a cousin's social media page. The reply had come promptly, a formal acceptance note with elegant handwriting that revealed nothing of the thoughts behind it. The Mendez family home in Austin had transformed into wedding central for the weekend festivities. Sophia had always dreamed of getting married in her parents' sprawling backyard garden, where generations of family gatherings had unfolded. Now that garden was adorned with string lights, white roses, and rented chairs awaiting tomorrow's ceremony. David's family had arrived from Chicago the previous day. The Andersons were a pleasant, close-knit bunch with none of the apparent fissures that marked Sophia's extended family tree. His parents, Richard and Mary Ann, had been married for 35 years and still held hands during walks. His sister Jen was Sophia's maid of honor, the two having bonded instantly during college. Sophia finished her makeup and headed downstairs to greet arriving guests for the rehearsal dinner. David met her at the bottom of the stairs, planting a kiss on her cheek. "You look beautiful," he whispered. "How are you holding up with all the family circus?" "Better now that you're here," she replied, squeezing his hand. "Fair warning, my mom's acting weird about Aunt Isabel coming. I don't know what their deal is, but maybe keep an eye out for tension." David nodded. Family drama seems to be the traditional wedding side dish, right alongside the mashed potatoes. Just wait until they all get here. The Mendez side is a telenovela waiting to happen. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for the family's favorite local restaurant, an upscale Mexican place that had hosted birthdays and graduations throughout Sophia's life. As guests began arriving, Sophia scanned the entrance for any sign of her aunt. Isabel Mendez Callahan had been a ghost in family conversations, mentioned fleetingly, never elaborated upon. The few childhood memories Sophia had of her featured a younger, more carefree version of her mother's face, framed by wild dark curls instead of Elena's sensible bob. Sophia's father, Gabriel, was handling the hosting duties with practiced charm. A history professor at the local university, he had always been the family's bridge builder, the one who smoothed ruffled feathers and redirected uncomfortable conversations. Tonight, he seemed particularly attentive to Elena, refreshing her drink and checking in with quiet whispers whenever she grew tense. When Isabel finally walked through the door, the ambient noise of the restaurant seemed to dim. At 63, she carried herself with the poise of someone who had spent decades in the spotlight. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled into an elegant updo, her pantsuit expensive but understated. Sophia felt a strange doubling sensation. Isabel's eyes were her own, that same unusual shade of amber that had always made Sophia stand out in family photos. Elena froze mid-conversation with David's mother. Gabriel quickly moved to the entrance, greeting Isabel with the cautious warmth of someone approaching a beautiful but unpredictable animal. Sophia broke away from a conversation with cousins to embrace her aunt. "Aunt Isabel, I'm so glad you could make it," she said, genuinely moved by the woman's presence. There was something disarmingly familiar about her, beyond the shared family features. Isabel's eyes softened as she held Sophia at arm's length. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world, dear. You've grown into such a beautiful woman." Her gaze lingered a beat too long, drinking in Sophia's features with an intensity that felt almost intrusive. The evening progressed with the careful choreography of people avoiding landmines. Elena and Isabel acknowledged each other with tight smiles but managed to remain at opposite ends of the room. Older relatives who knew both sisters exchanged meaningful glances whenever they came close to intersecting. Sophia's cousin Marco, always the family troublemaker, had too much sangria and started reminiscing loudly about childhood summers. "Remember that summer at the lake house, when Mom and Aunt Elena had that huge fight about?" he began, before his mother shushed him with alarming speed. Sophia caught David's eye across the room, raising an eyebrow. He'd been cornered by her father and several uncles, probably being subjected to the traditional pre-wedding interrogation. He gave her a subtle thumbs up. At least one part of this evening was going according to plan. As dinner wound down, Gabriel stood to give a toast. He spoke beautifully about Sophia and David's relationship, about the blending of two families. When he raised his glass to all the family members who have shaped Sophia into the woman she is today, his eyes flickered momentarily between Elena and Isabel. Something in his expression, a split second of uncertainty, sent a chill down Sophia's spine. Later, as guests began departing, Sophia overheard a fragment of conversation between her mother and her godmother, Carmela, Elena's oldest friend who had known both sisters since childhood. "She has no right to look at Sophia that way," Elena hissed. "After everything." "Elena, it was 30 years ago," Carmela soothed. "This weekend is about Sophia, not ancient history." "Some things don't fade with time," Elena replied, her voice catching. "Some betrayals." She stopped abruptly when she noticed Sophia approaching. Both women plastered on smiles that didn't reach their eyes. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the May sunshine warming the garden where chairs were being arranged in neat rows. Sophia had slept fitfully, troubled by the undercurrents she'd sensed at the rehearsal dinner. David had returned to his hotel with his family, adhering to the tradition of not seeing the bride before the ceremony. The house filled quickly with bridesmaids, hairstylists, and makeup artists. Elena moved through the preparations like a general commanding troops, her focus absolute. Only when Isabel arrived, invited by Sophia to join the pre-wedding preparations, did her composure crack. Isabel brought a small blue box, which she presented to Sophia with hands that trembled slightly. "Something old and something blue," she said. "It belonged to our grandmother." Inside was a delicate sapphire pendant on a silver chain. Sophia gasped at its beauty. "I thought all of Grandma's jewelry went to Mom after she died," Sophia said, confusion evident in her voice. Isabel's smile tightened. "Your grandmother gave this to me specifically. She said it should go to my—" She paused, recalibrating. "To the next generation's bride." Elena, who had been arranging flowers nearby, set down the vase with enough force that water sloshed over the rim. "Isabel," she said, voice low with warning. The tension between them crackled like static electricity. Sophia's bridesmaids exchanged uncomfortable glances. Jen, ever the diplomat, suggested they move to the backyard for some pre-ceremony photos, effectively clearing the room. Left alone with her mother and aunt, Sophia felt suddenly like a child again, witnessing an adult conversation beyond her understanding. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you so upset about a family heirloom?" Elena pressed her lips together, then spoke with careful restraint. "That necklace has history, Sophia. History that isn't appropriate for today's celebration." Isabel straightened her shoulders. "It's a gift, Elena. Nothing more." "It's never nothing more with you," Elena snapped. 30 years later, and you're still. Still what? Isabel challenged. Still existing? Still caring about my... Gabriel appeared in the doorway, his tuxedo immaculate, his expression grave. "Ladies, this isn't the time. Today is about Sophia and David." The sisters fell silent, ancient grievances momentarily suppressed. Sophia's hands trembled as she fastened the necklace, suddenly weighted with unspoken significance. The sapphire sat cool against her skin as she finished dressing, a tangible reminder of the family current swirling beneath the surface of her perfect day. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Sophia walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her eyes fixed on David waiting at the altar. His face when he saw her, that mixture of awe and love and certainty, steadied her racing heart. For those precious moments, the family tensions receded. The exchanging of vows, the rings, the kiss, all unfolded like a dream. Sophia found herself watching her parents during quieter moments of the ceremony. Gabriel's face remained carefully neutral, his professor's mask firmly in place. Elena dabbed at tears, her expression vacillating between joy and something darker, something that looked almost like fear when her gaze drifted to where Isabel sat. The reception began as the afternoon sun bathed the garden in golden light. Tables dotted the lawn, adorned with wildflower centerpieces. A small dance floor had been set up near the ancient oak tree, strung with twinkling lights. The wedding cake, a simple three-tier creation decorated with fresh flowers, stood on a table near the house's back porch. Sophia and David shared their first dance to the same song her parents had used at their wedding 30 years earlier. As other couples joined them, Sophia noticed Isabel standing alone at the edge of the gathering, watching with an expression of mingled joy and sorrow. On impulse, she broke away from David and approached her aunt. "Would you dance with me?" she asked, extending her hand. Isabel looked startled, then deeply moved. "I'd be honored." As they swayed to the music, Isabel's perfume, something citrusy and elegant, triggered a flash of memory in Sophia. A woman swinging her high in the air, that same scent, laughter. She was too young in the memory to have formed complete sentences. "I think I remember you," Sophia said softly. "From when I was very little. You used to visit more often." Isabel's eyes glistened. "Yes. I was there quite a lot, your first year. What happened? Why did you and Mom stop speaking?" Isabel looked over Sophia's shoulder, presumably at Elena. "Some choices leave marks that never fade. Your mother and I, we disagreed about something fundamental, something that changed all our lives." Before Sophia could press further, the song ended. Isabel squeezed her hand once, then slipped away through the crowd. As the evening progressed, Sophia found herself hyper-aware of the currents moving through her extended family. Older relatives clustered in groups, conversations halting abruptly when she approached. David's family, sensing something amiss but too polite to pry, maintained bright smiles and steered conversations towards safe topics. The cake cutting was scheduled for sunset. Sophia and David stood behind the table as guests gathered around. The photographer positioned herself for the perfect shot. Elena and Gabriel stood nearby, champagne glasses in hand. Gabriel looked slightly ill, Elena's smile fixed and brittle. Sophia didn't see Isabel approach until she was standing just behind Elena. Didn't hear what was whispered between them, but she saw her mother's face drain of color, saw her father reach out as if to prevent what was coming. Too late. Elena turned to face her sister, decades of suppressed rage finally boiling over. "How dare you," she hissed, voice carrying in the sudden silence. "How dare you come here and pretend?" "I'm not pretending anything," Isabel replied with quiet dignity. "I've respected your wishes for 30 years. I've stayed away. But she invited me. She wanted me here. Because she doesn't know." Elena's voice rose, cracking with emotion. "She has no idea who you really are." Gabriel stepped between them. "Elena, please. Not like this." Sophia felt David's hand close around hers, steady and warm. The guests had gone silent, all pretense of not watching abandoned. "Mom." Sophia's voice sounded small to her own ears. "What don't I know?" Elena turned to her daughter, face contorted with painful emotion. For a moment, Sophia thought she would deflect, would pull back from the precipice they were all teetering on. Instead, she took a deep breath and spoke words that changed everything. "Isabel isn't just your aunt, Sophia. She's your biological mother." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Sophia heard a roaring in her ears, felt David's arm go around her waist as her knees threatened to buckle. Isabel stepped forward, face pale. "This isn't how I wanted you to find out." "Find out what?" Sophia managed, though she already knew, pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. The sapphire necklace. The shared eyes. The mysterious estrangement. Gabriel spoke now, his historian's precision evident even in this moment of chaos. "Isabel got pregnant when she was very young. She wasn't in a position to raise a child. Your mother and I had been trying for years without success. It seemed like the perfect solution." "A solution?" Sophia repeated numbly. Elena's anger had crumbled into grief. "We agreed to raise you as ours. Completely ours. Isabel was supposed to be just your aunt. She promised to keep her distance, to let us be your real parents. But I couldn't stay away completely, Isabel said softly. You were still my. She stopped, respecting boundaries even now. The revelation rippled outward through the gathering. David's parents exchanged shocked glances. His sister's mouth formed a perfect O of surprise. Older relatives nodded grimly, confirmation of a secret long kept. The younger generation whispered among themselves, piecing together family history in real time. Sophia felt disconnected from her body, as if watching the scene from above. Her white dress, the scattered flower petals, the half-cut wedding cake, all seemed to belong to someone else's celebration, someone else's life. 30 years, she said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. You all lied to me for 30 years. We protected you, Elena insisted, reaching for Sophia's hand. Sophia pulled away. From what? From knowing where I came from? From knowing who I am. Isabel shook her head. This isn't how it was supposed to happen. I only wanted to see you on your wedding day. To give you the necklace. I never meant to disrupt. But you always do. Elena cut in, old bitterness resurfacing. You couldn't just follow the rules, could you? First with him, then with her. Always pushing, always wanting more than we agreed. Him. Sophia latched onto the detail. My biological father? Who is he? A heavy silence fell. Isabel and Elena exchanged a look loaded with 3 decades of unspoken history. Gabriel cleared his throat. Perhaps this conversation should happen privately. But Sophia had had enough of privacy, enough of secrets. No, no more hiding. Who is my biological father? Isabel straightened her shoulders, dignity intact despite the public unraveling. His name was Carlos. Carlos Vega. He was Gabriel's younger brother. The collective gasp was audible. Gabriel closed his eyes briefly, pain etched in the lines of his face. Uncle Carlos. Sophia's mind reeled. The one who died before I was born. Another piece clicked into place. Why there were no photographs of her supposed uncle in the family albums. Why his name was rarely mentioned. Gabriel nodded slowly. Carlos and Isabel had a brief relationship in college. When she got pregnant, he wasn't ready to be a father. None of us were prepared for the situation. So you just what? Pretended the baby was yours? Pretended your brother never existed? Sophia's voice rose with incredulity. Elena reached for her again, desperation evident. We loved you from the moment we knew about you. You are our daughter in every way that matters. Except biology. Except truth. Sophia turned to Isabel. And you? What was your plan here? Show up at my wedding, drop cryptic hints, then disappear for another 30 years. Isabel's composure finally cracked. I wanted to know you your entire life. I've kept every newspaper clipping, every achievement. I watched your college graduation from the back row. I just wanted to be part of your life, even at a distance. The revelation of this shadow presence, this biological mother who had orbited her life from afar, sent a chill through Sophia. She turned to her father, her uncle, Gabriel. Did you ever plan to tell me? Gabriel exchanged a look with Elena. We discussed it many times over the years. There was never a right moment. Sophia laughed, a hollow sound devoid of humor. And you thought the wrong moment would be my wedding day? In front of everyone I love. David, who had been a silent presence at her side throughout the confrontation, finally spoke. Sophia needs some air. This is too much all at once. Without waiting for a response, he guided her away from the cake table, away from the 3 people who had orchestrated her existence based on secrets and conveniences. They walked to the far end of the garden, to the old stone bench beneath the magnolia tree where Sophia had spent countless childhood hours reading books and dreaming of her future. They sat in silence for several minutes, Sophia's mind racing as she re-examined her entire life through this new lens. Every family resemblance, every inherited trait, every offhand comment about whose eyes she had, all of it built on careful deception. David took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. I don't know what to say, except that I'm here. Whatever you need. Sophia leaned against his shoulder, grateful for his solid presence in a world suddenly turned liquid and uncertain. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're the same Sophia you were this morning, he said firmly. Brilliant, compassionate, occasionally stubborn. The woman I just vowed to spend my life with. She looked back toward the reception, where guests were trying to pretend nothing had happened, awkwardly returning to their tables or helping themselves to more wine. Her mother, Elena was being comforted by several female relatives. Gabriel stood alone by the cake, looking older than she'd ever seen him. Isabel had disappeared entirely. How do we come back from this? Sophia whispered. How do I face all those people? However you want to, David replied. We could leave right now if that's what you need. Hotel room, ice cream, pretend the world doesn't exist until tomorrow. The offer was tempting. But as Sophia watched the fragments of her family attempting to navigate the aftermath of the revelation, she realized something important. This secret had controlled them all for 30 years, Elena's resentment, Isabel's grief, Gabriel's guilt. It had shaped every family gathering, every conversation, every relationship. And now it was shaping her wedding day too. Sophia stood, smoothing her dress with trembling hands. No, I'm not letting this destroy today too. David looked up at her with a mixture of surprise and admiration. What do you want to do? I want to dance with my husband. I want to eat cake with people who love me, regardless of DNA. And tomorrow, she took a deep breath. Tomorrow I'll figure out what all this means. They walked back to the reception holding hands. Sophia approached the cake table, where the knife still lay unused beside the half-cup bottom tier. She picked it up, the weight of it solid and real in her hand. David and I would like to continue with our cake cutting, she announced, her voice carrying across the hushed garden. And then I'd like to have a dance with my father. Gabriel looked up, startled. My father, Sophia repeated, meeting his eyes, who has loved me and raised me my entire life. A tentative smile broke across Gabriel's face as he nodded, acceptance of the gift she was offering, not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement of the love beneath the lies. She turned, scanning the crowd. And after that, I'd like another dance with my Aunt Isabel, if she's still here. Isabel emerged from the shadows at the edge of the garden, eyes red but dry. She nodded once, a gesture of profound gratitude. Elena stood frozen, uncertain of her place in this new configuration. Sophia met her gaze directly. And then with my mother, she finished quietly. The woman who has been my mother every day since I was born, regardless of how I got here. Relief flooded Elena's face, though Sophia could see they had miles to travel before reaching anything resembling resolution. David stepped up beside her, taking the knife and placing his hand over hers. Together they cut into the wedding cake, a simple act of normalcy in a day that had veered wildly from the script. As Sophia and David fed each other small bites of cake, vanilla with raspberry filling, sweet and tart on her tongue, she felt something shift inside her. The girl who had woken up this morning believing she knew exactly who she was and where she came from was gone. In her place stood a woman with a more complicated story, a more tangled family tree, but perhaps a more honest foundation for the marriage she was beginning. The reception continued as the night deepened, wounds too fresh to heal but acknowledgement the first tentative step towards something new. Sophia danced with Gabriel, feeling the subtle shake in his shoulders as he held her. She danced with Isabel, the two of them moving in surprising synchronicity. She danced with Elena, whose arms clung too tightly, fear of loss evident in every movement. Hours later, as Sophia and David prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Isabel approached with an envelope. When you're ready, she said softly, this explains everything. My side of the story, at least. Sophia took it, slipping it into her overnight bag without comment. There would be time for stories later, Isabel's version, Elena's version, the complex truth that probably lay somewhere between. As they drove away from the house, rice and rose petals clinging to their hair, David reached over to take her hand. Still Mrs. Anderson? He asked quietly. Sophia watched the rearview mirror as her complicated family grew smaller in the distance, Gabriel and Elena standing side by side but not touching, Isabel slightly apart but present. Still Sophia, she replied. Just, with a few more chapters than I realized. The sapphire necklace caught the last light of her wedding day as they turned onto the main road, heading toward a future neither of them could have anticipated that morning more complicated, perhaps, but built on truth finally brought to light. A year later, Sophia stood once again before the vintage vanity mirror, the sapphire necklace catching sunlight like captured memories. Beside it, Isabel's letter lay open, its creases softened by repeated readings, words now familiar yet ever poignant. Her fingers traced lines of honesty, forgiveness, regret. David appeared in the doorway, watching her reflection with quiet admiration. You ready? Sophia smiled softly, fastening the necklace around her neck, a tangible piece of a complicated legacy she now embraced. Yes. In the garden below, 3 figures awaited her arrival. Elena, Gabriel, Isabel, standing close but separate, still navigating the fragile peace they'd painstakingly built. Sophia stepped out into the May sunshine, carrying not bitterness, but hope. The past had reshaped her, altered her family's tapestry, yet she stood taller for it. She carried her history openly, refusing to let silence define her future. "Let's go," she whispered, slipping her hand into David's. Together, they walked forward, into the tangled, beautiful mess of family and truth, stronger than ever.